Thank you for attending NSF ANSI's 455-3 Good Manufacturing Practices for Cosmetic Certification Program Introduction webinar. Today we're going to discuss the NSF ANSI Cosmetic Program. Today we're going to go over a background of the NSF ANSI 455 and how and who and why it was developed. We'll go over the GMP standards, the certification process, resources, and how to submit questions and receive answers. Who is NSF? For 75 years, NSF International has lived its mission as a global leader in public health and safety. Through its dietary supplement GMP registration, product certification, and certified for sport programs, NSF leads the industry in providing quality, effective, third-party certification services. Facilities that proudly bear the NSF mark provide assurance that they are dedicated to upholding the highest quality standards in manufacturing, packaging, or distribution. NSF partners with stakeholders to provide solutions to everyday challenges within the health and science industry. There are several key challenges presented to NSF from our stakeholders. On the left, retailers have unique challenges that they were unable to review audit results, and that the GMP audits were not mitigating their supplier risk. On the right-hand side, our other stakeholders, manufacturers, also had unique challenges about audit fatigue and different retailer requirements. What was found in common between the retailers and the manufacturers were the inconsistencies between audit and auditors, as well as interpretation of the standards. NSF focuses efforts to address the most common industry challenges were inconsistency between audits and auditors, as well as the interpretation of GMP requirements and guidance. Our goal at NSF is to ensure that the key challenges were met with solutions to standardize the industry while providing continuing improvement for supply chain good manufacturing practices. NSF's Joint Committee of cross-functional members was established with multiple stakeholders from the industry. The standard creation from the Joint Committee included industry regulators, retailer requirements, industry best practices, ISO 9001 guidelines. Next, we'll be talking about the GMP standards. The first major key challenge was to address NSF Standards Writing Division, was spearheaded by the NSF Standards Writing Division for the creation of the standards to meet the challenges for having consistency for dietary supplements, cosmetics, and OTC drugs. In 2018, 3 of the NSF standards were approved by ANSI and published. NSF ANSI 455-2, Good Manufacturing Practices for Dietary Supplements, NSF ANSI 455-3, Good Manufacturing Practices for Cosmetics, NSF ANSI 455-4, Good Manufacturing Practices for Over-the-Counter Drugs. For today in this presentation, we'll be focusing on NSF ANSI 455, Good Manufacturing Practices for Cosmetics. The standard was developed under an ISO 9001-2015 guideline structure, which will have general normative references, definitions, audit requirements, audit process, informative annex, which describes the certification bodies and how they will handle appeals, complaints, advertising, and confidentiality. But for the sake of time given during this presentation, we're going to focus on the audit requirements, which are the GMP requirements manufacturers must meet, and the audit process, how the audit process will work. The standards section, audit requirements, ensures consistency and GMP requirements. So the audit requirements are divided in the sections for concepts of organization, leadership and commitment, organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities, planning, support, operations, performance evaluation, and improvement. GMP standards sections for the audit process can be found in Section 5 of the standard. The audit process will describe in more detail in that section audit process introduction, audit and certification process outline, audit preparation, audit planning, on-site audits, report grading, and nonconformances for corrective actions, and post-audit activities. So, there is a 455 standards champion. The Global Retailer and Manufacturers Alliance, GRMA, is a global nonprofit with members from most major retailers, manufacturers, trade associations, public and health organizations, and certification bodies. The Alliance was formed to develop an auditing scheme that utilizes consensus-based quality system standards for good manufacturing practices through the American National Standards Institute to process several non-food related industries. GRMA accepts the NSF ANSI 455 GMP standards as a scheme owner. The second key challenge was addressed by this independent nonprofit organization called GRMA. The GRMA addressed stakeholders' concerns of auditor and audit consistency as a scheme owner. The goal is to ensure and provide a platform where all certification body members, retailers, and manufacturers will receive consistent training, calibration, and implementation of audit criteria based on ISO 17065. GRMA is a champion of auditing against the NSF ANSI 455 GMP standards for dietary supplement, cosmetics, and OTC because it fits with its goals and missions for strengthening safety, quality, and trust throughout the supply chain, ensuring consistency and proper training for auditors, reducing the number of audits and financial costs associated with audits, combining regulatory requirements, industry best practices, and retailer requirements. And they're going to be having all certification bodies able to certify against the new NSF ANSI 455 standard. Next will be the certification process, audit cycle, pre-audit process, audit process, and the post-audit process. So this is a high level of the certification process. Each section will be discussed during this presentation. But from left to right is everything in green will be client responsibility, which is yourself, and anything in blue will be NSF's responsibility. So in the standard, it states that you will have to have a self-assessment or a third-party assessment before you do an application for your certification body, which is NSF, the CB. You have the audit needs to be planned and executed. An audit report needs to be completed. The CB management review and CGMP rating will be assigned. The corrective action plan, if nonconformances were issued, will have to be addressed by the client. Certification decision will happen after a closure of all corrective action plans and approval. And then there'll be a certificate issued that will be valid 12 months upon approval. And then you start the cycle again with your recertification audit. So this is the audit cycle. The audit cycle is a certification audit. If you have a grade A and B, You will get another certification audit in 12 months from the previous audit, which is called the recertification audit. If you have a grade of a C, within 6 months you will have a monitoring audit, and 6 months after that you will have your certification audit again, which will be your recertification audit. For a grade of a D, it is considered a failure, and we'll talk about this more in a further slide. So a certification audit will cover the entire applicable standards. Frequency of the certification audit is initial and a minimum of annually. So you'll receive a visit confirmation, and an agenda will be sent a minimum 1 week prior to the audit. The average audit duration is 3 days, but that depends on the size and the processes within your facility. A grade is assigned upon the release of the report. The monitoring audit. The monitoring audit is required for a company receiving a grade C for their certification audit. A company may obtain certification 6 months after successfully completing the certification audit, the monitoring audit. The monitoring audit is focused on verifying and implementation of corrective action responses and plans submitted to the site during the previous audit. Average audit duration for this will be 1 day. Grades are not assigned during this audit, for you remain with a grade of a C after the completion. So this is very unique. For grades A and B, a monitoring audit may be required for failure to close out previous nonconformances from a certification audit. Certification audit failure. It's required for a company receiving a grade D. All non-conformances shall be addressed. Corrective action plans shall be submitted and approved by NSF before requesting a new audit. Certification will receive a full certification audit, and facilities shall schedule and execute the certification audit within 6 months. The recertification audit. The recertification audit is a certification audit that will cover the applicable standards. It is performed 12 months from the initial or the certification audit. You will also receive a visit confirmation and an agenda. It will be sent a minimum 1 week prior to the audit. The duration will be approximately 3 days, or depending on the size of your facility. A grade is assigned upon the release of the audit report. And if you have a grade A or B, it may require a monitoring audit for failure to close out repeat nonconformances for previous certification audits. The audit process. The pre-assessment can be conducted by your own organization or a third party to ensure that you meet the NSF ANSI standards. An application will be required for information about your organization to determine the scope of the audit, duration, and other pertinent information to ensure NSF can perform your audit. An audit visit prep. There will be several ways to prepare for your NSF ANSI audit. At a minimum, you will receive an agenda 1 week prior to the audit. Remember to flag your email. You will receive, it may be received way in advance of your audit. During the application period, set a time and date that you will establish for your audit. It's a great way to ensure that production is in scope and it's being manufactured by communicating this to your senior leadership and operations, productions, planning, laboratory department, and staff. The organization's participation in giving the auditor access to the entire facility will give the audit a smoother execution. The audit process. Opening meeting. Attendance for senior leadership, managers, quality unit, and other supporting staff will be taken during the opening meeting. The auditor shall review the agenda, confirm the scope of the audit, the number of buildings, review the classification of findings. Auditors must have full access to the facility and will tour the facility to inspect the premises and processes. This will include the facility inspection, laboratories, employee interviews, documentation review, and they will conduct a traceability challenge. During the closing meeting, attendance for senior leadership, manager, and other supporting staff will be taken during the closing meeting. All nonconformances will be reviewed verbally and issued in writing within 10 business days of the last day of the audit, along with the final report. The post-audit discussion will consist of an overview of corrective action process, issuance of a report, and the final grades, which will be determined upon technical review and the final report. Grades will not be discussed at the time of the audit. Please refer to NSF ANSI standard or the presentation for the grade table. During the next slide, we'll discuss the NSF audit template, which differs in structure, but not content, from the NSF ANSI 455 standard. NSF conducts audits based on a quality management system. Auditing in a QMS system and process flow will allow auditors and clients to get a complete picture of the health of the system. In this table, the NSF template structure will be based on sections A through I, which will be the actual standards. Section 0 will be visit summary, information about your facility. Client logistics will state more information about the facility and organization. Administrative is about the FDA information. Quality management reference about personnel, hygiene, training, control, etc. You'll have supplier qualification, product safety, which will be cleanliness of the facility and equipment. Facility will be the infrastructure and pest control, etc. Product and process control will include manufacturing, packaging, product specification, release and returns. Laboratory controls will include testing method and operations, and warehouse and distribution will include ingredients, components, packaging, label, and finished product. The post-audit process. The technical review will ensure the technical accuracy of the report. The final documentation will be received within 10 business days of the last day of the audit and the corrective action report. The corrective action review is the review of your CAR submissions through NSF Connect. You must submit all nonconformance corrective action plans within 10 business days of receipt of a CAR and must be approved. NSF will submit a corrective action within 5 business days. Certification. Facility certification will only be given if you receive a grade of A or B or after successful completion of the monitoring audit for a grade C and the successful completion of the corrective actions that are approved. Once certification is granted, NSF publicly listed certified clients will be on nsf.org. This is part of the post-audit process. A grade is assigned once the NSF technical team finalizes a report for the below nonconformance criteria. For a grade A, you will have to have less or equal to 6 minor nonconformances. For a grade of a B, you could have 1 major, equal or less than 6 minors. Or if you want a B grade with no majors, 7 to 11 minors is a B grade. For a C grade, you could obtain 1 major and 7 to 11 minors, or you can have 12 to 17 minors. For a grade D, you could have 1 critical, equal or greater to 1, or you can have a major, 2 major nonconformances or more. for less than 2 major nonconformances, for a grade D. For another way you could calculate a grade D is if you have 1 major nonconformance and 12 minors, up to 12 minors, and then you would have, or above of 12 minors, and then you'll have equal or greater to 18 minors. For the post-audit process, you will receive all your information in NSF Connect. NSF Connect is where you'll be submitted your corrective action report responses within 10 business days of receipt of the corrective action report. NSF Connect, you could also check paid invoices, access NSF policies, standard requirement documents, view the audit report, and the status of your corrective action report. If you have any questions, you may reach out to your dedicated NSF account manager. In the post-audit process in NSF Connect, you will see some definitions or some words in reference to your corrective action responses. Corrective action responses must be submitted and approved by NSF before the next upcoming NSF GMP audit at your facility. Failure to do so will result in your facility being placed under review, which may call your NSF listing into question. So the categories are as followed. Pending. Client information is not submitted through NSF Connect. If the corrective action response reviewer will request for additional information, it'll say additional information requested, and the corrective action submitted, but however, it's deemed insufficient, so more information and supporting documentation must be submitted. Rejected. The corrective action submitted is not acceptable, and revised corrective action must be submitted. Approved. NSF has accepted the plan, procedure, and will verify upon next audit. So the post-audit process flow. Everything is blue is NSF responsibility, and anything that's green is the client's responsibility. So you performed the audit, we conducted a report and technical review, issued the audit and CAR report within 10 business days. Then, after the 10 business days are calculated, days are calculated from the last day of the audit. Once you've received your corrective action report, you must submit your CARs in NSF Connect within 10 business days of the receipt of your CAR report. Any overdue CAR shall result in suspension or denial of certification. So once NSF receives your CARs, NSF has 5 business days to process your corrective action response. There's 2 options that can happen. We can reject the CAR or we could approve the CAR. If CARs are rejected or additional information is required, the client is deemed to do rework of a CAR, and they have 5 business days to provide that information and submit it to NSF Connect for review. Once the CAR is reviewed, it either rejected or approved. If it's approved, it receives GMP certification upon successful completion of A, B, or C and closure of the audits and NSF policies. So, audit grade and frequency of audits. For grade A, it'll be every 12 months. For grade B, it will also be of every 12 months. A grade C will get a monitoring audit 6 months from their last audit, and then a recertification audit 6 months after that successful completion of the monitoring audit. A grade D will have to close out their corrective actions and provide objective evidence before being considered for a re-audit. Remember, all these are upon CAR approval. Post-audit process. These are the NSF deliverables. You will receive an audit report within 10 business days, a CAR report immediately following the audit report, the final CAR report after CAR closure, a certificate upon successful completion that will be valid for 12 months, and you will have your public listing on nsf.org. For companies that complete certifications, they have the opportunity to use the GMP certification marks on advertising. However, they cannot use this on any product. Please refer to NSF 455 Standards Program Certification Policies for more information on the use of certification marks, and contact your account representative for your marketing guides for the NSF certification mark. What are the benefits to NSF ANSI 455? It is accepted by major retailers. The goal is to reduce the audit fatigue and have less audits per year. For continual improvement, the goal is for this standard is to assist manufacturers to improve their quality systems through the audit process. Single audit scheme 455 GMP and industry standards for dietary supplement, cosmetics, and OTC will provide one single audit system for everyone to align with in the industry. It's a public standard. NSF public standards can be reviewed, commented by industries, manufacturers, public retailers, and certification bodies. So just because the standard is published doesn't mean you cannot participate and comment. The Joint Committee. This is a standards group that has developed this public standard and participated in the development and modification of the 455 standards. We encourage your stakeholders to participate in NSF standard joint committees as influencers or observers and voters to make recommendations for the standard's continual improvement. And you will have a dedicated NSF representative to help you every step of the way. So what resources does NSF provide? To help you succeed and grow in the GMP certification program, NSF offers a wide range of resources, including the NSF ANSI 455 certification policies, the NSF standard documents, the NSF 455 audit requirement guidelines, which are the interpretation for the standards, NSF ANSI 455-1 terminology for the portfolio of standards, NSF 455 audit template, information guide, and your dedicated NSF account manager. Other services that NSF offers are the Writing Standards Group. The Writing Standards Group provide and promote food, drinking water, indoor air quality, dietary supplement, consumer products, and environmental safety. They write standards to calibrate the industry and have as best industry practice. Testing. We have a state-of-the-art facility in Ann Arbor for testing products to these and other standards. Certification, certifying products to these standards, and we also have and include dietary supplements, NSF 173 product certification, and certification for Sport 306. Auditing. We also conduct auditing for food, water, consumer good industries, and separate from certification is consulting. So they provide strategic and technical consulting for dietary supplement, pharmaceutical, medical device, food and beverage industries, including also cosmetics, and training. We have a great team of developing trainers that develop training and education programs for our industry standards. If you have any questions about the standard or need more information, you can contact us at 455certification@nsf.org via email or the phone numbers in this presentation. And we just like to thank you for your time and your commitment to listening to the NSF ANSI 455-3 Cosmetics Introduction to the Certification Program. Thank you and have a wonderful day.